Check this out. A Trump-appointed federal judge has ruled against Trump when it comes to the Associated Press being banned from the press room at the White House. A victory for free speech and a defeat for the president who appointed this judge. Let's discuss. I'm Dave Aronberg, former state attorney for Palm Beach County, a.k.a. the Florida Lawman, here on Legal AF. And in a ruling that surprised some observers, federal judge Trevor McFadden, who Trump appointed to the bench back in 2017, ruled that the White House could not ban the Associated Press from having access to President Trump on Air Force One and other areas where journalists are allowed to speak to Trump. You can't pick and choose who you want based on who gives you better coverage. The Associated Press cannot be banned because the White House doesn't like what they have said, or their refusal to use the term Gulf of America instead of Gulf of Mexico. This is the federal judge appointed by Trump saying that although the White House is not mandated to provide access to every event, it does have the responsibility to allow journalists the same access as similar outlets, even if they disagree with their views. And this is being reported, ironically, by the New York Post, a Rupert Murdoch publication, reporting on a Trump-appointed judge who then ruled against the Trump administration. Quote, the court simply holds that under the First Amendment, if the government opens its doors to some journalists, be it to the Oval Office, the East Room, or elsewhere, it cannot then shut those doors to other journalists because of their viewpoints. The Constitution requires no less, McFadden wrote. Hundreds of reporters have a so-called hard pass, which allows access to the White House briefing room and press working area. A second, more limited group of journalists, referred to as the pool, is granted access to more intimate or restricted events with greater opportunity to ask the president face-to-face questions. The pool used to be decided by the White House Correspondents Association till the Trump administration took it over to handpick which journalists they could add to or remove from the pool. The AP previously had access to the president's limited events every day alongside fellow wires Reuters and Bloomberg. Under the Trump administration, only one wire service is allowed in the pool each day. And after the ban, the AP was not even allowed into the wire rotation. Quote, the court does not order the government to grant the AP permanent access to the Oval Office, the East Room, or any other media event. It does not bestow special treatment upon the AP. Indeed, the AP is not necessarily entitled to the first in line every time permanent press pool access is enjoyed under the White House Correspondents Association. But it cannot be treated worse than its peer wire services either. And about that White House Correspondents Association, remember they're the ones who throw Nerd Prom, aka the famous press dinner, which has a comedian every year and everyone gets together from both sides of the aisle. At least the media, takes all those tables at the Hilton and they eat rubber chicken, but they have a good time talking about free speech and the First Amendment and trading jokes. Well, not necessarily this year, because the comedian Amber Ruffin said she was dropped from the Correspondents' Dinner for talking shit about the Trump administration. That's what she said. And according to The Hill, I think it's a good thing that I lost a gig because I was going to show up there and act all the way out. Ruffin, 46, continued. The comedian and late-night writer was poised to deliver a speech at the White House Correspondents' Dinner, April 26 in Washington. But the association announced last month in an email that the annual gala event would no longer be featuring a comedic performance this year. The move to cut Ruffin came shortly after she appeared on a podcast and described the Trump administration as kind of a bunch of murderers. The White House Correspondents Association didn't note Ruffin's murderers comment when announcing it was cutting her performance. Ruffin said she originally agreed to dole out zingers across the board at the dinner, which traditionally features roast-like remarks from a prominent headliner. It's not anyone's fault because when I was hired, we were like, oh yeah, we'll give it to everybody, she said. Then they started effing disappearing people to a prison El Salvador, the comic told co-host Roy Wood Jr. So Ruffin stood up and she was canceled. And the association dedicated to the First Amendment and free speech has decided to move in a different direction and make sure that there would be no comedian who would offend the president there that night. And that's where we are in the year 2025. And we've seen with law firms around the country making deals with the administration. And yet, at the same time, the federal judges do what they're supposed to do. And I know a lot of us may disagree with the recent decisions of the Supreme Court, although, as stated in an earlier video by Popak, the Supreme Court's decision recently in the migrant deportation cases wasn't as bad as people thought. In fact, unanimously, they decided that the administration does get judicial review, does have oversight from the courts when it comes to the use of the Alien Enemies Act. That is totally contradictory to Trump's position, which is that he has a unilateral authority to deport people. So federal judges are doing what they're supposed to under Article 3 of the Constitution. And I think that's because they've got lifetime appointments. They get to wear the black robes, they get the cool gavel, and you have to stand up when they enter the room. So when you tell a federal judge that they have no power and they can't get involved in a matter, they aren't going to like it, and they're going to push back. And unanimously, they push back against that contention by the Trump administration. And here you have Judge McFadden, a Trump appointee, who has said, yeah, when it comes to the Associated Press, you can't discriminate amongst wire services. You got to let them in. And so here we are. Our system of checks and balances is still operating up to a point. We'll see if we get to that crisis moment where the administration decides to say, that's the ruling, we are going to ignore it, we're going to walk away from it, we're going to defy that court ruling. I know that there are those who think they've done it already, but they have not affirmatively said that they are doing that. They have not affirmatively said that they are going to reject court rulings. They have tried to play word games, saying, well, Judge Boasberg's decision in the deportation cases, well, that occurred after the planes were in the air, and he doesn't have jurisdiction over international flights, and we abided by the written order he gave out, not the verbal order. But they haven't said that they're going to explicitly reject court orders. That day may come, and that day is when we enter into crisis mode, we enter into a coup. But until that day comes, we're going to keep following it closely and looking at skeptically but truthfully here at Legal AF. I'm Dave Aronberg, aka the Florida Lawman. If you like this video, please like, subscribe, share with a friend, leave a comment below. Thank you for all your support, and I'll see you next time.
In collaboration with the Midas Touch Network, we just launched the Legal AF YouTube channel. Help us build this pro-democracy channel where I'll be curating the top stories at the intersection of law and politics. Go to YouTube now and free subscribe at Legal AF MTN. That's at Legal AF MTN.